Hi, I'm Marlo from Wild Food UK, out foraging again. It's the 22nd of February today, and it's starting to feel a lot like spring. So our spring courses are starting up pretty soon. If you haven't booked yours already, go to wildfooduk.com. Now, today I'm going out on a new walk in search of a plant that I've had a tip off about. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that my friend in the local area got their identification right. If so, I'm going to be a happy forager. But I'm going to, along the way, go through lots of the different basics again, like I did in a recent video, just showing you what's around at this time of year. And like I said, it's starting to feel a lot like spring today, which means that we're actually going to be saying goodbye to a few things very soon. And down here is one of those. This is most definitely a winter fungus. And we're actually, I never knew this spot was here. We're only about 400 yards from my house at the moment. And I've found a new spot for velvet shanks. Flammulina velutipes. And we're actually on my landlord's land. So again, I'm going to take this bit of wood home and put it in my mushroom wood pile later on. But let's have a look at one of these nice big mature ones. What we should see on these mature ones is a dark black stem. There you go. When young, that stem will be sort of orangey and the cap will be lighter. There's no young ones there because it's very much coming to the end of the season for these lovely, tasty, edible winter beauties. Look at those free gills. They aren't attached to the stem. And there is no skirt on the stem. So this is a lovely little start to my walk. And in the same spot where we found our lovely velvet shanks, I found another spot for another edible mushroom, one that's featured on the channel plenty of times before. Got a lovely big elder tree here. And on all the fallen elder, there's some lovely ones that, oh, there's some beautiful babies here. Have a look at these. Those cups would have been pointing downwards. They always do on your wood ears or jelly ears or auriculari judae. Now, these are beautiful. I've got a few wood piles of these back in my garden. They grow on almost every bit of broken elder you're likely to find. And I love Chinese food. That's what I use these in stir fries and Chinese soups and things like that. I don't normally pick them fresh like this though. Look at those lovely babies. I normally pick them. There's a few on the tree actually, Eric. Let's go over if you can without tripping over. There's a lovely fresh one. But on the tree we've got some pretty dry ones here. There's one there. And you've got one up there, good spot. There we go. Here's a dry one. And that's how you buy them, because you rehydrate these in the stock or the flavors that you want them to be. They've got a funny jelly-like texture, which doesn't really suit much Western cooking. But I love Chinese food, and this is an ingredient they use in lots of their dishes. So a lovely start to our walk. Fingers crossed it's going to end with a plant that I am very much looking forward to finding. No, turkey tails. We did those in the last video. Let's find something new. Right, so I'm going to run through 5 or 6 different plants here in the border to this field. This part of the field's been planted, but the farmers around here are great. They leave lovely, big, wide borders, and this one must be 25 feet. Very impressive, guys. And in those borders, you get a wide variety of plants. So let's have a look. There's one real favourite of mine. But first of all, we've got our lovely little blue flowered speedwell. Here's some here, Eric, just coming up. Not really anything interesting to say about Speedwell, to be honest, apart from it brightens up your spring walks. We've also got one of the vetches here with its climbing tendrils at the end of these very pea-like leaf systems. It's in the pea family. Now, that looks to me like common vetch, but Vicia sativa, but I can't be sure until I see it in flower. And some of the vetches are toxic, so don't eat your vetches until you've seen the flowers, and don't eat your speedwells. Over here, though, is a plant that I love to eat, and there is loads of it growing around here. That is lesser swineCress, one of the Coronopus, and it's a lovely, tasty, spicy salad leaf. I rarely come out to pick it from the wild though, because it grows in all the flower beds and all the vegetable patches in my garden. So I just pick it from there. It's one of the weeds that I don't pull out of my vegetable patches because it's tastier than most of the salad leaves that I grow. Now, there are certain different types of plant that I'll say to people, have a nibble in the wild to find out what it is, but lesser swineCress isn't one of those. When it's bigger and in flower, it's quite distinctive, but when it's young, there are other lookalikes for it around, and 3 of them are growing right here. So first of all, we've got our tansy. That's going to grow up and have sort of a group of yellow flowers later on in spring and early summer. It is an edible, but personally, I've never made it taste nice. You hear about tansy cakes, and I know other people use it, but it's not one that my taste buds get along with. Try it for yourself if you want to, if you've ID'd it properly. There are some other lookalikes just around here though. Let's have a little wander this way. Here's another lookalike. There's the swineCress, and there is young shepherd's purse. This is an amazingly variable plant. The leaves, or the basal leaves, come out serrated like you see there, but then as the plant grows, the leaves become oval, and it is an edible. Again, it's one that I'll use the seeds of. The seeds what give it its name. The seeds are kind of heart shaped rather, and it's called shepherd's purse because shepherds used to make their purses out of I think pig scrotums, which are apparently heart shaped, so hence the name shepherd's purse. It's an edible. But just over here, besides some more shepherd's purse and some more swineCress, we've got this little young member of the carrot family. Now, the carrot family is an incredibly interesting family of plants for foragers because it contains some of the best edibles that we've got in the UK, and also the most poisonous plants that we have in the UK as well. And it's growing right beside the swineCress. Now, anyone that knows a little bit about the carrot family would probably recognize it, but for complete beginners, it's not too dissimilar. That is very young hemlock. And that means that this horrible mousy smelling plant is truly deadly. So, make sure you ID your swineCress properly. But when you do, it's a lovely salad plant, the best of anything I've shown you in this little part of the video. So I'm still in the edge of the same field, and I'm going to stick with the carrot family for you guys for a little while, because we've just found my favorite wild Apiaceae or carrot family plant. There's some young stuff, middle of February is when it normally starts to come up. And just over here, there's some more young stuff with some arum growing in amongst it. That there is a perfect young shoot of common hogweed, Heracleum sphondylium. That shoot is a very versatile vegetable. I'll eat it just fried up in butter. I'll dip them in pakora batter or tempura batter, and they're lovely like that. We make a hogweed and wild garlic soup at this time of year, which is absolutely lovely. It's a versatile vegetable, and it grows in profusion in hedgerows all over the country. There is a dangerous lookalike for these, though. I'm going to drop in a photo of a shoot of giant hogweed right now, Heracleum mantagasianum. You can see that that one is just a bit more vicious looking, a bit more spiky looking. And me personally, I can discern them by sight. If you're not sure though, don't touch your common hogweed. Common hogweed is slightly phototoxic. If you get the sap on your skin on a sunny day, it can burn you. Giant hogweed is extremely phototoxic. That means that it reacts with UV radiation on your skin, or sunlight on your skin. And if you get giant hogweed sap on your skin on a sunny day, then you might well end up in hospital. So be sure when you're picking your hogweed as well. But when you are sure, you are in for a treat. Two more members of the carrot family down here. We just saw some, here it is, Eric, some chervil. And here we've got some more mature hemlock. Chervil in this hand, hemlock in this hand. Look how similar they are. Chervil's edible. It's not very tasty though, and it's not worth the risk for beginners of mistaking it with this. This one smells a bit mousy. This one smells like grassy parsley. There are some other differences. I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but chervil has a celery-shaped stalk and hemlock has a round, hairless stalk. Hemlock's also famous for having purple blotches on the stem, but you can see this young stuff does not have purple blotches. So be very careful with your carrot family, but I urge you, get familiar with hogweed. It is a very underused food resource in the UK. Some people can have a little bit of a reaction to it. So the first time you eat hogweed, don't eat too much. But I've only known of that happening to one person over the 20 years that I've been eating hogweed personally. So yeah, get out and find your hogweed shoots. They are lovely. So I'm lucky enough to live in the beautiful Wye Valley. My house is only about 500 yards from this amazing river, the River Wye. And in Britain, we have two dominant riverside trees, the willows, there's a few different types, and alder. Now on this, what is a willow, here you can see that bracket fungus. Now that must be the willow bracket, because there's only two types of bracket grow on willow. The other one is chicken of the woods, which is bright yellow. So now you know how to ID a willow bracket. Weirdly though, I'm putting Eric, my cameraman for today, in a bit of a dangerous spot. Come on over, Eric. Out of the bough of the tree, we've got a few other interesting plants. This is the first bit of hedge garlic that I have seen this year. Alaria petiolata. Now, if I crush this up and have a smell, I get a nice mild smell of garlic. But this is one of those coriander-like plants that reacts differently with different people's taste buds. So if I was to eat this, I'd start off getting a lovely little flavour of garlic, followed by a bitterness. And then for me, that's followed by a nasty taste of paracetamol. Eric behind the camera doesn't get that aftertaste. So for him, it's a salad leaf. For me, it certainly isn't. But then, as is common on riversides all over the country, and also growing out the bough of the tree here, we've got the young cotyledon leaves of one of the most invasive plants in the country. This is young Himalayan balsam. I'll drop in a photo of it mature now, because when it's mature it gets to about 10 feet tall and the flowers are beautiful. When it's young it looks like this, with a slightly reddish tinge to the stem and very cabbage-like cotyledon leaves. It's a beautiful plant, but unfortunately it's overshadowing and stealing nutrients from all of our native riverside species, including wild garlic, which is one of my favorite plants. So this pretty much invasive species #1 in the country. Although I think actually rhododendrons might be invasive species #1, weirdly. This is one of the few plants that I'll pull up and throw away as I'm walking around. We've come a little bit further along and we've found a mushroom. It's just down here. Look at that little beauty there. Now, if you've been watching this channel a lot, you might be thinking, oh, he's found a deceiver. But if you watch the channel a lot, you'll also know that I say that the only deceiver that's safe for beginners is the amethyst deceiver, because with its purple colouring, it has no real lookalikes in the UK. This is a very, very close lookalike for your Locaria locata, the true deceiver. Deceiver-like in almost every way. It's got the same texture on the stem, and the stem can often be wavy. It does grow in clusters, although we only found one here, and it's very deceiver coloured. The gills are not quite so widely spaced though, and it's February, so that tells me that this is the scurfy twiglet, Tubaria furfuracea. Now, it's not highly toxic. All the books class this as inedible, so you don't want to eat it. But this is one of the closest lookalikes for the deceiver. Let's see if we can find something else. So we've just come into an ashwood, one that I've never been to before. Ash is not my favourite type of tree because you don't get too many mushrooms growing with it in autumn. You do potentially find the semi-free morel or possibly the Verpa conica in sort of March and April time. They're both lovely edibles, but in autumn, ash is no good for fungus. But at all times of year, it's certainly good for these, which are a type of fungus, I suppose. These are King Alfred's cakes, Daldinia concentrica. If I was to break this in half, this big mature one here, you'll see those sort of concentric circles there. This one is dark black and crusty. This one is a bit lighter and much firmer. This is a fresh one. Now, if I was to pick this, take it home and put it on the side, after a couple of days, there'd be loads of black powder all over the side wherever I'd left it. So I'm not taking that home. I don't take these home, but they are useful for one thing. They're useful for fire lighting when they're dry and for transporting fire as well. So this one we lit just before I started shooting, and you'll see if I blow it, it's smouldering nicely, and it has a lovely smell as well, nicer than any incense as far as I'm concerned when they're smouldering. Now, big ones of these, when they're dry, they'll smoulder for anything up to half an hour, and it's believed that our ancestors used to pick these, and when they had a fire and they set off for their hunting party or whatever, they'd light one of these and take it with them. And then when they wanted to start their next fire, they already had a smouldering fungus in their possession to do so with. So yeah, these have been found on prehistoric men that have been dug up. for that reason. Over here though, put that on the floor. It's nice and damp today. That one actually lit while damp, but I'm still going to put it out. There we go. This is a nice damp woodland, and in the UK, in any sort of damp rocky woodland, you might well find this plant growing all over the place. Beautiful heart's tongue fern. And of the ferns, this is one that's actually considered edible, but it really isn't very tasty at all. And then behind both of those, in the same spot, we found something that you always find at this time of year. Oh, Eric's found it first. Lost those. I am actually a bit red and green colourblind, guys, so these mushrooms are quite hard for me to see. There's some more beautiful baby, either scarlet or ruby elf cups. They're growing all over the woodland around here, so they're certainly something I'll be taking home today. Not the little ones though. So I said we're in an ash woodland and that you might be able to find some semi-free morels or verpiconicas growing in this type of woodland. But when it comes to their fruiting time, I'm not coming back here looking, because most of the ground in this woodland is covered by ivy. You all know ivy. What it means to a forager is that the diversity of plants in the area goes down, and fungus almost don't bother fruiting. There might be a few that would fruit underneath this mat of ivy, but you'd be very hard pressed to see them. So when woods are covered in ivy, I tend not to come back to them to go foraging. There's one plant that's trying to compete with the ivy around here though. It's one that you all need to know. That is dog's mercury. It's an extremely common woodland plant, and it will grow in big patches where it's almost the ground cover, or it is the ground cover itself. Now, dog's mercury is quite poisonous, people. Never eat your dog's mercury. This must be it, Eric. We were told to look for this bridge. And here we might well be. Right, okay. Yes, it's very young, but this is what I came out to find. We have a new patch of few-flowered garlic growing all in amongst these snowdrops here. Apparently this patch goes the other side of the bridge as well. It's all very young, unfortunately. I don't think I'll be picking much of this today. But this is few-flowered garlic, and I can tell that by the smell initially, which is a way of differentiating it from its very close look-alike. Look at that, our snowdrops, which are toxic, even have the same ridge down the back of the leaf. The leaf is a slightly different colour, but as with all of the edible alliums in the UK, and there's more than you might think, I might do a video on that soon. Snowdrops don't really smell of much. Few flowered garlic stinks of garlic. Now, how do I know this is few flowered garlic? The reason is quite simple. I will do a video soon doing a comparison between them all. But few flowered garlic has the same leaf shape as three-cornered leek, but the leaves are wider. And they tend not to grow quite as clustered, but just the wider nature of that leaf tells me that this is few flowered garlic. And of the wild garlics that we get in the UK, it's a toss-up for me whether I like our native wild garlic or this one best. This one has a few advantages. It's much more succulent. So when you're cooking with it, you don't have to slice it into tiny little bits to stop there being stringy bits in your soups or your food. It's a succulent leaf. And flavour wise, it's stronger than three-cornered leek. And yeah, I'd say maybe even stronger than our native Allium ursinum, wild garlic that grows not too far from here. So nice. So that was few flowered garlic. I'm back home now, but on the way home, Eric and I were discussing all the different types of wild garlic that grow in the local area here. So we came up with 5, maybe 6 or even 7 that we think we can find for a future video where I'll show you in detail all of the plants and how to tell the difference between them. My next video is going to be using some of the few flowered garlic that I picked today in a lovely recipe, so that will be up in a couple of days. I will say this is a slightly different format, these walks that I'm doing at the moment, to the videos that I've done before in the channel. If you like them, guys, please let me know in the comments below. But I'll say to any new people to the channel, all of the plants, or probably 99% of the plants and mushrooms that were in this video today, I've already done a longer full identification video which you'll be able to find in the channel, so subscribe and have a look at those if you really want to know how to ID the things safely that I've showed you today. They're also all on the free mushroom and plant guides on our website, wildfooduk.com, and that's where you can get our books or book a foraging course.